macroscopic indicators, the extent to which we've gotten to like heights that we've never gotten to before. How does that, or what does that mean for the average intelligent voter, the man at the corner sitting and watching this debate?
I gather Roger wanted to chime in.
Right. A concern I think I've had with the format of the debates, unfortunately, any kind of policy discourse that you're going to be having require context and then a deep dive. It is impossible to do that in the time frame that you've given. So what we've ended up with is just is a sound bites. It's really unfortunate because it's not a space for us to really talk policy.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts then, Mr. Morgan, as we consider the format, the issues that sometimes you may have, you know, your party members or leaders in this case, they come to the debates and they are open to answering questions, but may not necessarily get those questions that they are most excited to answer.
Indeed.
Are you prepared for that as a party?
And I mean, given the format of the debate and what is logical, the participants, the debaters, have no superintendents over the questions posed. And of course, we saw that coming out in a fulsome way this past Saturday. You are dealing with a social issues debate, and one of the more pressing of the social issues, perhaps not now to the extent that the government has been successful on it, and I'm speaking here of citizen security, crime. And you didn't see that figuring any at all in the social issues debate, which in itself is instructive because in a time past, certainly in 2015 or even 6 years ago, if you were to interface with the ordinary Jamaican, you would find issues pertaining to crime management, you know, figuring prominently in their psyche. And we're delighted as an administration that we have had a 55% reduction over the past 3 years in murders. And we've seen that essentially the murder rate is being slashed in half. We inherited a situation where the murder rate was in the order of 49 to 100,000 population. At present, it is on course in this calendar year 2025 to take us anywhere between 20 and 25 murders per 100,000 population. That's something we take comfort in. And for us in the Jamaica Labour Party, we are inviting the Jamaican people to bring into sharp focus those issues and reward a government that has been faithful in its stewardship, certain in relation to preserving and saving lives in the country, among a host of other things. I can speak of having cut poverty in half to the extent that poverty is at 8.2%. I can also speak of unemployment coming down considerably to record lows, 3.3%. Some 260,000 jobs have been created these past 2 terms. So Jamaica is in a place now where we're set for takeoff, and these elections are of particular moment because the decision made next Wednesday could determine whether these gains are built on or whether the boat is, you know, unduly rocked and we return to a point of high debt, a point of reintroduction of taxes, and a point of considerable wage freeze. Because based on what is proposed, in particular the PNP's $3.5 million income tax threshold, that will, in my view, and in the Jamaica Labour Party's view, literally take us back to the IMF and take us back to a point of unsustainable and high debt, as I said just now, wage freeze for public sector workers, and of course, increased taxes. And the people should appreciate you have had 10 consecutive years of no net new taxes, and we have had 8 consecutive years of no new taxes. That is profound. That is of considerable moment. And we in the Jamaica Labour Party are pleased with having delivered those things to the Jamaican people.
All right, what is of moment as well is a break that we're up on. But before we take that break, just a reminder that CVM's very own Giovanni Dennis, managing editor here, as well as senior reporter Amoy Harriet, are now participating or getting ready to be participating in tonight's leadership debate that will take place at the CPTC studios in Kingston. With that, we take a break.
An announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
When I chose to serve, it wasn't about politics. It was about love for country, for people, and a passion to ensure every Jamaican can secure the future we all deserve. And we have made real progress. Thousands of Jamaicans now have water for the very first time. New roads have been built. The murder rate is at its lowest in decades. Poverty and unemployment are at record lows. And we have done it all without imposing new taxes. That's not a promise, that is delivery. No matter which political party you have supported in the past, this election is about Jamaica's future. We're doing more for you, and we're not done yet. Jamaica is moving forward, and we must keep building. The Jamaica Labour Party has a strong team that is getting the job done. We are committed to you, your family, your future, and to Jamaica land we love. I am Andrew Holness. Put your X beside the bell.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
The following is a paid announcement by Young Jamaica. Whenever you hear the grand promises from the PNP, remember this confession from their spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson.
We don't explain limitations when we campaign. We don't. None of us do, because we want votes.
Don't believe them. Don't trust them. They are desperate and they're only trying to trick you.
Everything I grow and you lead out, them I watch you show. The vision real, the people want more.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by Young Jamaica.
Welcome back to Lead Story, a special edition capturing all the happenings around the general election debates set to start at 9 p.m. this evening, or tonight, as it's properly said. Here on CVM TV, we'll be looking into the matter with our panelists, and we now join Carla Ramdeen, who is in studio with our live audience for a quick talk as to what's happening.
Thank you, Nika. For viewing audience, we invite you to scan the QR code on the screen to take our poll during the break. This is, of course, another innovation for participation in CVM TV. So we're going to go to our live studio audience to take some questions.
I don't have a question, but more so a comment. I think tonight the Jamaican people have a front row seat to democracy in terms of our two leaders sharing their own vision for the country. I think tonight is exciting because we have a career politician in our Prime Minister who's up against what business people know as a commercial attorney. And so I think both of them will share their vision, and I think people have a front row seat to see who has the best vision to lead this country.
What would you like to see in the debate tonight? What would you like to see discussed?
I think reasonably, we should expect, perhaps not expect, but should prefer some degree of clarification as to a lot of the policies which I would otherwise deem symmetric as far as their effect. When we talk about, for instance, the issue of taxation, and both parties having their plans in place, there needs to be some amount of specific details as to how these things are going to be put into place. Some amount of differentiating from the other side so as to get the undecided Jamaican voter to say, well, I think these people have a better plan with regard to this very pertinent issue. I think that, for me, would be something that would add a lot of value to this debate.
All right. Carla, I think you have a taker on the front as well.
It's a pleasant good afternoon to everyone, and success for our debaters, our Honorable Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition. But in the transport sector, we are anxiously awaiting to know the survival of our business. As transport sector investors, we'd love to have any information to find out what are your plans. We were in negotiation for rate increases. Let's know, can we go back to the OUR so we can negotiate and have our rate increase at that level? We also want to have an idea about the grants that we were supposed to be given through the DBJ or the Exim Bank. Let us get these loans out at single-digit rates so we can have our investment go into a new direction for energy saving on parts, spare parts, repairs, and other strategies for the survival of our business. Let's also talk about, the yellow lines that have been all over Kingston during the independence celebration. We need to remove them because that's how the police are ticketing our investors. And after 10 demerit points, you know that your license is gone, your survival is gone. So we have a lot to discuss and hope that we'll know what the future is like in our business.
Well, that was a mouthful, but we thank you because now we want to invite the lady in the fancy dress, Reverend Dr. Nordia Henry Dunbar. You couldn't hide from me. And so we know you're from the religious community, the church in particular. And does the church have anything specific that it's expecting from these debates this evening?
Tickle said it quite eloquently. Society informs the church just as much as the church informs society. And as such, I'm interested to see the different shifts or the different moves that either the opposition leader or a prime minister will be making in regards not just to the church, but to society, and to see how they will affect not only my congregations, but the communities that my congregations are in. Because it's understanding that whether or not we want to say there isn't a merger, there is. And both influence each other. So I'm very interested to see where this is going to go. Our ears are open and our churches are waiting also.
All right, thank you so much, a woman of the cloth. And just a reminder to our viewing audiences that we have a barcode on the lower left-hand side of your screen that you can tap into and be participating in our CVM polls. Those are major polls that you'll hear about, and you can also grade the debate that will be taking place later on tonight. So we return to the panel. We've heard quite a bit from our live audience, and gentlemen, before we went to them, we spoke a lot about taxation, but still not enough, because we're hearing about the how. People want to know about the how. How do you propose is the best way that either of these leaders tackle this issue tonight without sounding like they're giving away too much?
Notwithstanding the time constraint, yeah.
Right. So I'll go with you, Mr. Bent.
The question of clarity will come up. There is really no going around it, especially given the fact that two political parties have really launched this platform on taxation. Yes. Well, this platform on raising the limit for taxation. Now, the whole issue is whether or not they will have that time or the kind of pointed questions that are going to be asked to that point. They can't really answer what is not asked, or if they are sharp enough, they're going to have to. They're going to have to figure out how it is they're going to punch what needs to be punched while answering the questions that are asked. And I think that's the real issue that we're going to have to be looking on right now. Do we have sharp questioners? Mm-hmm. Do they know what is exactly on the pulse this evening?
Well, CVM has a man in the ring, so I'm going to say yes, we have sharp questioners tonight. So, Mr. Atkins, as I bring you in, I'm not sure if you've seen previous national debates around these leadership matters, but certainly 2020 debate, you may have been around to see it back then.
Yes? Yes, I was around to see it back then.
How do you think this debate will fare in comparison to that one?
Okay, so just to pivot a bit away from the question,
sure.
I think as of right now, I am confident that both parties what exactly needs to be done, right? I think I'd agree with Mr. Bent in saying that a lot of the questions need to be a bit more pointed, a bit more on the pulse as it relates to the issues that a lot of people care about and want to see clarified. Now, I think, how do we get to a point where that can be achieved? I think the best way is to comparative assessment / analysis, just showing contrast, as one of the persons in the audience said, showing a contrast or differentiation between what is happening on the PNP side versus what is happening on the JLP side. I think with that increased awareness that I think both parties have right now, I think that's the way in which they can go about having persuasive rhetoric, rhetoric that is pointed, that even if the questions aren't, that they'd achieve this outcome of persuasion.
Right. Well, I still wanted you to answer that question when I come back at some point. But for now, we are up on another break. And just ahead of the break, to inform our audience that we did invite a representative from the People's National Party. However, that individual canceled at the last minute. And so that is why you don't have that individual here this evening with us. So we take a break. We'll have...
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
Get your golden ticket and win with Sangsters Back to School. Spend $5,000 or more at any of our stores. Get a golden ticket, scratch it off, and win. The grand prize is a shopping spree valued at $150,000 at Price Mart, or a JPS gift voucher valued at $150,000. Plus, 12 branch winners will get $10,000 digital gift card. See the press or visit our website for details. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
And that's what you love to see. They may be rivals, but the camaraderie is what it's all about. Can't wait for the final.
Start your journey with a Jane Bank Small Business Loan, with small business loans with as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million.
The time is...
If you are just joining us, this is Lead Story, a special edition of Lead Story. We're talking about the election debates. We have in studio our panelists, Marlon Morgan, senior member of the Jamaica Labour Party's Communication Task Force, Mr. Roger Bent, political commentator, Mr. Joshua Atkins from the Jamaica Association for Debates and Empowerment. Welcome again, gentlemen. And we also have Carla Ramdeen in studio with a live audience next to us. And so we'll be hearing much more as the debates rage on later on. And even before that, we remind you of a QR code that is now on your screen that you can take our poll and participate in responding to the debates here as they go on. Well, we've been talking a lot about taxation, and we have some graphics prepared ahead of time for you. So we want to ventilate the taxation matter, juxtapose them on both sides based on the manifestos that we've seen. Well, certainly there you have it. For the JLP's I Choose Jamaica, you would see major pop-ups to include gradual reduction of personal income tax from 25% to 15%. They're also speaking about raising tax-free threshold to $2 million over a 2-year period, and phasing out asset tax on financial institutions while consolidating payroll deductions into one. Well, the PNP's Mission Jamaica Love suggests that that party wants to raise tax-free threshold more than the $2 million over 2 years on the JLP side. The PNP says we'll raise it incrementally to $3.5 million. Well, it didn't say that here, but I'm certain that came out in the economy debates. And so we'll have to discuss that a little further on with our panel. But removing tax on overtime earnings, that was a big plus for some of the workers I heard from recently. Maintaining current asset tax structure. And the PNP also plans to fund reforms through projected growth and fiscal discipline.
I want to take the opportunity, because it would be remiss of me, Nika, to be on the panel here and not bring a couple of things into sharp focus. Now, first of all, the Jamaican people are invited to recall that ahead of the February 2016 elections, the JLP gave a flagship undertaking as it related to moving the personal income tax threshold from the then $592,000 ultimately to 1.5. Over these past 2 terms, we have effected the largest increases in the income tax threshold, moving it, as I said just now, initially from 592,000 to the 1.8 million Jamaican dollars per annum that it stands at. So just to be clear, we are the set of people, Nika and viewers, who have demonstrated the capacity, the financial gravitas, the fiscal gravitas, and the ability to effect reform in relation to income tax, because our philosophical position is that we want to have a regime where we're strategically moving more away from a reliance on direct taxes to more of a reliance on indirect taxes. So you will have taxpayers in the country determining what taxes they pay based on their consumption. So just at present, we have an income tax regime where there is no income tax paid on income up to $1.8 million per annum. For that band between $1.8 million and 6 million Jamaican dollars, income tax is paid, viewers, at a rate of 25%. And then there's the higher end, higher income earners, those persons earning in excess of 6 million Jamaican dollars per annum, they pay income tax at a rate on that portion of their income at 30%. So everybody benefits from the respective threshold, you know. So even the person who earns $14 million per annum, they will benefit from the 0%. Up to, on the first 1.8 of their income per year, they will benefit from the rate at 25% on that portion between 1.8 and 6 million, so and they will benefit, and they will pay 30% on that portion above 6 million.
So for the 1.1. For the 1.5 million threshold to have worked, it meant that another class or group of people were taxed more. Those would have been over a certain pay bracket.
I'm happy for the opportunity to respond to that, Roger, because when we were in opposition back in February 2016, going into those elections, we gave an undertaking to persons earning up to 1.5. When we took office, based on some concerns that the IMF had regarding the simplicity of the tax code, they indicated to us that we could not have an asymmetric scenario where you have one tax threshold applying to one set of people, in this case, the people earning 1.5 or below, which would be a 0% income tax, and then another tax regime applying for everybody else. So we essentially had to over-deliver on the commitment we made. The commitment was made to those persons who earned 1.5 at the time or less, but based on, and the country will recall that we were in an IMF program at the time, and they said, for efficiency and simplicity of the tax code, you have to have it across the board. So we had anticipated at the time that the financial impact, the fiscal impact of the 1.5 would have been 18 billion. And at that time, we had set out to the Jamaican people how we would have funded it to include such things as the discontinuation of the oil hedge and, of course, consumption multiplier plus other modalities. However, when we got to office in March 2016, we had to essentially expand that commitment based on the IMF, feedback and their observations. But, but what is important here is that we ultimately used a responsible approach by having phased in, and so we were able to honor our undertaking and commitment to the electorate that was made back in February 2016. And we're proud to having done so. And what we're saying to the Jamaican people is that having done it, as being a man would say, we do it already and we are going to do it again. So we are the people who have demonstrated that capacity, and you can repose confidence and trust in us in that regard, because goodwill and track record in the body politic must count for something.
All right. Well, Mr. Morgan, after this, I don't know if I'm going to come back to you for a little bit, because we want to touch on health care, another big ticket item that I'm certain the manifestos delved into quite a bit. And when I compare the manifestos ahead of time, we'll see the JLP's I Choose Jamaica pointing out that the party wants to strengthen primary care and hospital infrastructure. It plans to expand digital health records and improve maternal and child health services. On the PNP's side, on Mission Jamaica Love, universal access to world-class health care and prioritizing cancer treatment and mental health, while expanding elder care and disability inclusion. Now, if my cameraman allows me to see further, I will get a chance to tell you more about improving health Well, he's not moving out the way, so I'm going to tell you about improving healthcare conditions for health workers, improving health worker conditions. So the environment, it seems, for the workers. And I understand we have a nurse in our midst. Carla, could you take us to her? We'd like to know if she could tell us how these plans pan out in her world.
I'm happy that I'm included in this debate. And while it is that taxation and the economy is so important for the entire country, my three big ticket issues were health, education, and security. So we seem to be hearing that security has been solved, but have you been watching the news? Look at the conditions of our police officers. They're in Linstead in particular, and I know that I'm straying from health, but I'm particularly interested in these issues. Look at Linstead police station. For many months and weeks, the condition of the police officers, even though crime has been coming down, has been subpar. What are we doing to improve the state of affairs for our police officers? And let's talk about health. We're talking about a declining birth rate, right? And in the midst of a declining birth rate, there were so many premature infants who died. What are we doing to address health? And if my leaders can't speak to health, can't speak to security, and can't speak to education, they failed me. And I'm not prepared to vote if they're not able to address those issues.
I've heard, Nurse, and I appreciate your passion, Nurse, because I'm sure a number of your colleagues can identify with your, your kind of interest and your kind of, just enthusiasm and the way you're vociferous on the matters you're bringing into sharp focus. But just to be very clear, in relation to rehabilitating police stations, there are 150 police stations that have been rehabilitated. 9 have been newly constructed. You indicate that the conditions at the Linstead station leave much to be desired. Having demonstrated the capacity and having the track record of having done so in terms of building 9 brand new police stations and rehabilitating 150 others, you can rest assured that in a third term of the Holness-led government, we will essentially get around to making sure that the Linstead police station is bigger and better going forward.
I don't think she wanted you to recount achievements in that kind of way. I think she's speaking to a bigger philosophical approach to health. And I think if you're going to do that, then you need to do that instead of just recalling what is done or not done. Let's talk philosophy. Those things lead to policy, and that's a big issue.
Hear those, I remember a hand was raised in the front. Yes, please go ahead.
As the nurse here spoke a while ago, it resonated to me with regards to the Spanish Town Hospital. 2 or 3 dialysis machines were installed there through Godfrey James and Minister Robert Montague. And those machines are saving lives for Jamaicans. So I really appreciate the government of the moment here in 2021 that installed those dialysis machines to save our lives. It's passionate to me because I had a relative who really benefited from those installations. Thank you.
Oh. Happy to hear that. Well, we have a gentleman in the back. We're coming back to the Reverend, and we have another gentleman who had his hand raised. So, no, we give the gentleman in the back first, please.
Okay, good night. I see where the JLP government has said that they're going to move income tax from 25% down to 15%, where the additional funding will come from to fill that gap that is there. So I am wondering, because I'm a member of the transport sector, what is going through my brain is that if you guys are going to raise ticket fines again to fill that void, which will be left now.
It would be lovely.
Asking for you, please.
And it would be lovely if you could also, from the audience, share your names, your professions, or your inclinations when you're talking to us so the audience outside can relate.
But if I may, Nika, and I appreciate the concern and the question from my good friend in the public passenger operations sector. Just to be clear, the strategy and the philosophy of this government is not to rely on fines, as it were, for fiscal support. The money gleaned from traffic fines, for example, does go into the consolidated fund, yes. But the point is, we want fines to serve a deterrent purpose. So we do not want to have persons offending and violating the Road Traffic Act. And so we would be quite fine, as it were, if it is that you do not have any offenses to prosecute. But we live in a real world, and we know that, yes, you will have someone overtaken where there is an unbroken white line. You will have people driving without seatbelt and other infractions. But just to be clear, we wouldn't be predicating, as it were, our fiscal program, our program to provide public services to you and other Jamaicans, my brother, on fines coming from taxi operators or bus operators, for example. Yeah? So you asked a pertinent question, or raised a pertinent concern a while ago. How would we manage to fund our proposal to move the base income tax rate from the current 25% down to 15%? The first thing we have indicated, this is a broad policy commitment, and what we have indicated is that it will commence in the upcoming financial year, so in fiscal year 26-27, to the extent that the JLP is returned to a third successive term of office, and we'll be doing it as we did with 1.5, we'll be doing it in a way, my brother, that is fair, phased, and fiscally responsible. So in other words, not rocking the boat, because only irresponsible people would get a bucket of milk and turn around and kick over the bucket of milk. So I would implore you and other operators in the sector to not be concerned about anything in relation to whether additional taxes or increased fines, because from time to time you may have a review of traffic fines to ensure that you're honoring and you're being fit for purpose in relation to discouraging misuse of the roadways. That's the purpose it serves, a deterrent effect, really.
Marlon,
yeah.
Moving from 25% to 15%.
I have to take the break, Mr. Ben. So when you come back, we can rag him together. But for now, we are up on a break. Remember, the QR code is on your screen. It's at the lower left-hand corner. You can use that code to participate in tonight's debate, pre- and post-analysis. So we join you later on after these messages with this conversation continuing.
Protecting Jamaica's borders is a key priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. The JCA will remain vigilant and resolute in effectively fulfilling this mandate. The time, brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency, is
8:45.
The following is a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
Jamaica isn't just the land we love, this is the land we choose. Over the past 9 years, the Jamaica Labour Party has done more than any other government to make this country better for us all. This is no accident, this is action. The Jamaica Labour Party is doing more for you, and we're not done yet. We're doing more for the economy. No new taxes in 8 years, and more Jamaicans working than ever before. We're doing more for your security, ensuring we live in safer communities, plus more access to community health care and more reliable water. From transforming lives through education and training to providing real support for our women and elders. We're doing more for your future.
And with our tried and tested team, drive and commitment, we will deliver even more.
Stick with the proven results, not just promises. Put your ex beside the bell.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
Millions of people are attacked by harmful mouth bacteria. The root cause of bad breath, gum problems, cavities, plaque, and tartar. That's why Colgate combined the best science and technology in Colgate Total. Unlike others, its superior formula fights bacteria and creates a powerful protective barrier for up to 24 hours to prevent them from coming back. Take control of your oral health with Colgate Total.
From first steps on campus to graduation day, we've been with you through every chapter. Introducing the new face of the Students Loan Bureau, a fresh identity designed for your future. The bold step forward with a fresh look for a future-focused mission. Still rooted in trust, service, and possibility, while continuing to uphold our core values of integrity, accountability, respect, teamwork, excellence, and customer focus. It reflects who we are today, modern, resilient, and evolving with the people we serve. This isn't just a new logo, it's a renewed commitment. The Students Loan Bureau, building bridges, transforming dreams.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
To leadership of a nation, and that's what we'll be talking about in the national debates later on this evening. Of course, the Prime Minister will be going head-to-head with the opposition leader, and we are in studio with a panel of Marlon Morgan, senior member of the Jamaica Labour Party's Communication Task Force, Roger Bent, political commentator, Joshua Atkins from the Jamaica Association for Debates and Empowerment, and we also have Carla Ramdeen, our reporter, who is standing by with our live studio audience who have been tapping in. Remember, to join the conversation, we invite you to scan the QR code on the screen to take our poll during the break and to respond to the debates that will be taking place starting at 9 o'clock. Let's talk strengths and weaknesses of these two speakers, leaders, of course, in their own rights. How do they convince an audience, a Jamaican population, that they are ready to take leadership? We'll start with Mr. Atkins because I think we've left you out a little bit a while ago, so we'll bring you back to the conversation.
Yeah, I think a lot of character assassination might happen in this debate, and I think necessarily a lot of Jamaicans are looking, as Mr. Ben said, to seeing if the character of the leader that they're looking at is the one that they would want to be in office. And I think I wouldn't want the debate to boil down to just ad hominem attacks, right? I think in terms of what they should do to convince the people that they are the leader, for me specifically as a university student, I'd like to see much clearer articulation of policy. And I know that that is one of the strengths of the Prime Minister, for example. He's very well aware of how to connect the dots. And I think particularly in relation to the opposition leader, I think that is one of his noticeable deficits. I think those are the things that need to be considered in trying to convince the Jamaican people that they are the leader to look out for.
Well, Mr. Bent, some people would say the opposition leader has certainly grown in terms of his relatability over the period of the campaign, which for him seemingly started early this year. And so where do you place strengths and weaknesses juxtaposing these two men as they head into the debates?
In terms of charisma, I think we're going to have to see how it is that both parties are going to turn out. Andrew Holness has grown significantly in terms of his charisma from his early days as Minister of Education to now Prime Minister. You've clearly seen the growth. We've seen the leader of the opposition in Parliament and how he makes that kind of speech, but then those are prepared speeches. It's a little bit different. How do you move off the cuff and deal with that kind of pressure? That's an interesting thing to look at. And also, people will still recall his less than enthusiastic presentation in the 2016 or 2020 debate it was. So he has some growing to do. I think that this evening we may just see him stepping into a bold move and giving us a bit more of him that we've not seen before. I suspect that is what is going to come. So charisma, I think the Prime Minister may have an edge there, but tonight, depending on who turns up from the leader of opposition side, we could see that leveling out or even a surprise flip. As it relates to the ability to deal with content, I think both of them are even. They're highly educated, seasoned politicians, and I think we should see that from them.
Well, I want to ask you, Mr. Morgan, what sort of preparation went into packaging the leader that we will see representing the Jamaica Labour Party this evening?
So considerable engagement and preparation went into conditioning the Prime Minister for this evening's deliverable. Just to be very clear, we're not in the habit of being complacent. We're not in the habit of thinking of ourselves as being too great and, beyond the occasion. So we know that the stage is set for a conversation this evening with the Jamaican people, and what will be projected by Andrew Holness a few minutes from now is a leader who has a grasp of the issues, a considerable command of the issues that are pertinent to the people of Jamaica, like their housing concerns, their water-related concerns, the continued need for crime management, and just handling this epidemic of violence that we have here in Jamaica. And importantly, articulating in no uncertain terms and in a compelling and credible way a vision for Jamaica's development. Because as I said to you, in November of 2024, the Prime Minister presented a profound economic policy statement where we used the acronym ASPIRE, and we are essentially pivoting to our next chapter as a political party and as a political party in government, because we know that securing accelerated growth is what is needed right now.
So the ultimate question, are people's lives better over the last 9 years in less than 30 seconds?
Very well. I would unequivocally be of that view. The Jamaican people, while we recognize that there are some households that have challenges and are enduring some hardship, the truth of the matter is that when you consider poverty at 8.2%, 250,000 Jamaicans having attained new jobs, when you consider unemployment being at record lows, when you consider the debt coming down from close to 130% of GDP
my colleague
to 68%
would
of
say
GDP,
time,
the Jamaican people
Mr.
are better
Morgan.
off.
We want to throw to the panel with Carla Ramdeen, to the audience rather.
Thank you, Nika. By a show of hands, is your life better? Please raise your hand. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. There you have it.
Okay, so 4 in 10.
Under this, yes. For those who didn't raise their hands, why? I'll come over to you to get your response. You didn't raise your hand?
I think for me it's more than just economy. I'm looking at the values of a nation. I'm looking at corruption. I'm looking at integrity of a leader. And I think for me, yes, I can afford the things at the supermarket, but is my leader right for the country at this time?
Well, this gentleman here explained it quite frankly, right? Because as he said, the leader, his integrity comes into consideration on a daily basis. There's a lot of things that's been going on that he can't seem to come forward and explain to us that how this is how it goes. So there are a lot of things, among other things, that is also going on.
Coming over to you, sir.
Good night. So for me, it's more of a comment. I'm Tariq Preddy from the representative for the Jamaica Association for Debate on Empowerment, the Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, and the St. Anne Chamber of Commerce. Now, for me, I think I speak for the Jamaican people when I say I believe this debate will be a debate that you see a series of political jabs being thrown by both the opposition leader and the Prime Minister. Now, I think my comments, or my remarks, they tend more along the line of coming from the back of the economic debate or the economic issues debate, where they've seen more of mediocrity in some instances, and in other instances, you'd have seen a bit of economics come up. I think I speak for the Jamaican people when I say this debate hinges much on proving to the Jamaican people, the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, that they are of credible character. But more importantly, they are fit for the office of the Prime Minister and leading this country along the path of development and growth. Now, in that, I think we must look for, in this debate, the fulfilling of their burdens, their individual burdens.
Great. So we have less than 3 minutes before the actual debates, and we do have some live shots for you. So you're looking at CPTC's studio 3 minutes or less than 3 minutes away from the leadership debates, the critical debates, they'd say, of the three, the most significant perhaps for many people who are watching, and certainly for most of you in our live audience as well. So you're seeing there, that appears to be the moderator who is already in place, and I'm seeing our journalists as well. So last bit of comments, very quick, less than 15 seconds for each of you who are going to chime in very quickly.
What are you looking forward to?
What I'm not looking forward to is the fluffs and the assassination attacks. What I'm looking forward to hear the salient issues that both parties have to present. I want to hear what they're saying, not to have all these grand gestures.
And what are you looking forward to? Good evening. My name is Naika Gervan and I'm representing Young Jamaica. This evening, having briefly read through the JLP's manifesto, I'm looking forward to my Prime Minister elaborating and just delving a bit deeper as it relates to the policy proposals, particularly regarding housing. Housing is a touchy point for many Jamaicans and we are still awaiting. Last one.
Good evening, I'm Javoy Crossman from Young Jamaica. What I'm looking forward from this debate is seeing who will speak about the housing and especially education. As we see in the JLP manifesto, it states that it will provide funding for young mothers who want to go to art. Recently, I was in a community, I spoke with a young lady, 17-year-old. She wants to go back to school, but is unable to. And this feature from the manifesto can help young ladies like her who want to better themselves. So I want to see what plans they have for us young people.
And there you have it. So we have had expectations set, and now it's seconds away from the much anticipated face-to-face leadership debates. We remind you that after the debates, we come back here in studio at 10:30 for our post-debates analysis. We go now to CPTC.
To the General Elections Debates, brought to you by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future, Kendall, the taste of quality, Sagicor Group, building trust one generation at a time, Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JM Group, Lasco Chin Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, Miss Birdie, H&L Homes, and VM Group. Tonight, we focus on the leaders. Our moderator is Archibald Gordon.
Good evening. Welcome to the final of 3 general election debates organized by the Jamaica Debates Commission, staged before a live studio audience. The debates are intended to assist in identifying, clarifying, and understanding the issues being presented in this general election campaign. This evening's debate focuses on the leaders. Members of the panel of questioners are Dion Jackson Miller, Radio Jamaica 94 FM, and Giovanni Dennis, CVM TV. Taking and presenting questions from the public is our social media editor, Amoy Harriott, from CVM TV. I am your moderator, Archibald Gordon. As is customary, the audience is not to applaud the debaters except for now, after we announce each debater. Tonight, representing the People's National Party is party leader Mr. Mark Golding. Representing the Jamaica Labour Party is party leader Dr. Andrew Holness. The guidelines for tonight's debates have been previously agreed and are posted on the Debate Commission's website at www.jamaicadebatescommission.org. The guidelines include questions being no longer than 30 seconds, and each debater is allowed 90 seconds to respond to each question, and rebuttals are limited to 45 seconds. The questions posed in tonight's debate will come from 2 sources. The first source is you, the public. Send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. These will be checked, selected, and asked by our social media editor. The second source of questions is from our panel of journalists. Questions are not influenced by the Jamaica Debates Commission in any way. Our sign language interpreters tonight are Dorothy Williams and Terrian Bernard from the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf. Based on a previous coin toss, our first question tonight comes from Dion Jackson Miller of the RGR Group, and it will be directed to Dr. Andrew Holness.
Dr. Holness, government members have recommended taking the Auditor General off the Integrity Commission. There have been changes made by your administration to the Office of Political Ombudsman that have virtually destroyed its effectiveness as a check on the behavior of politicians. And there have been constant attacks by members of your administration on the Integrity Commission and on media and civil society groups that criticize your administration. Shouldn't Jamaicans be concerned about what appears to be a pattern by your administration of undermining oversight bodies in the public sector, civil society, and media?
There is absolutely no attempt by my administration and indeed myself to undermine any oversight body. Indeed, we have acted to strengthen and make them far more efficient. In placing the oversight of the political ombudsman under the office of the Electoral Commission, that's a move to strengthen and give it far more institutional framework. I myself have been very complimentary and acted in a very dignified way as it relates to the Integrity Commission.
Mr. Golding will have the opportunity to respond.
There has been a definite pattern of hostility from the Jamaica Labour Party government towards the institutions mentioned in the question, in particular the Integrity Commission, largely because it is well known that there are at least 10 members of parliament who are under investigation for illicit enrichment, a serious corruption offence, of which the only one to be known is the one for whom a report has been completed and sent to the parliament, which is you, Andrew. As a result of that, they have done their very best to try to neuter that critical institution, including the Prime Minister bringing that institution to court to undermine its effectiveness and indeed eliminate it entirely.
Our next question comes from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Mr. Mark Golding.
Mr. Golding, Keith Duncan says the PNP's proposal to increase the income tax threshold to 3.5 million is impractical and impossible to fund without new taxes. Can you explain how these planned tax breaks will work without hurting the economy?
The context in which we have decided to increase the threshold to 3.5 million is the hollowing out of the middle class in this country. Working families finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. And we believe with the debt to GDP ratio having now, after 13.5 years of belt tightening and austerity, having now reached the cusp of the target of 60% of GDP introduced into the fiscal rules in law under Portia Simpson Miller, this is a time, this year it's expected to actually, with the readjustment of the definition and calculation of GDP, this is the year that we expect to achieve that target. That will release 2.5% to 3% of GDP of additional resources, which were not previously budgeted for in the fiscal policy paper. That is more than sufficient to pay for our entire program, including the $3.5 million increase to 3.5 million of the tax threshold, which will make our civil servants and our middle managers, and indeed most of Jamaicans who are presently suffering under the high burden of the cost of living, have money that they can spend, they can fix up their homes, extend their homes with a room, buy a car if they don't have one, pay down debt where they may be in arrears. It is necessary to preserve the country from brain drain and to keep the society intact.
Dr. Holness now has the opportunity to respond.
The hollowing out of the middle class is an act of the PNP. They totally decimated the middle class. It is the Jamaica Labour Party that introduced the increase in the non-tax threshold that recreated a middle class in Jamaica. In fact, when you look at the salary profile of PAYE contributors, you would see that their salaries have all risen. It is the Jamaica Labour Party through the compensation review that has increased salaries by over 200 billion Jamaican dollars for public sector workers. The current proposal of the PNP is unworkable.
It's now time for a question from social media. We're going to Amoy Harriot.
Thanks, Archie. Our first social media question tonight comes from Instagram. Shania in Kingston, she says, low voter turnout suppresses the effectiveness of a democratic society. Many Jamaicans refuse to vote because they believe both parties are corrupt. What would you say to the significant population of non-voters? And if elected, how will you hold politicians accountable for offenses against the people instead of protecting them?
So in this instance, the question, you have 90 seconds to answer, and we begin with Dr. Holness.
Corruption is a serious problem in our country, and corruption requires strong leadership. From my position as Prime Minister, I have taken action against any member of my political party that has been involved or accused of anything that suggests corruption. In my own case, I have been investigated for a year with an expert forensic auditor. The findings of that report have suggested no corruption. There have been no charges. Every aspect of my report, every aspect of my personal life and my personal financial details are in the public domain. I am the politician about which Jamaica knows the most. And therefore, I am the politician who can stand with the greatest moral authority to treat with any matter that is considered corrupt, as I have done in the past. And I want to give this assurance to the Jamaican people that you know me, you know about me, you can trust me, and you know that I stand against corruption.
Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond to that social media question as well.
Andrew, what they know about you is that you have 28 bank accounts, that you received several $1 million in cash deposits from anonymous donors in your bank account, that your companies had transactions of over $400 million, several thousand transactions between them, and that Positive Jamaica Foundation, a non-profit which you are intimately connected with, provided resources which you use for personal investments through your personal company. We have signed the Leadership Code of Conduct developed by Integrity Commission. All of our spokespersons and myself have signed. None of your people have signed it. I am committed to ensuring that all members of the executive, when we form government, will have their Integrity Commission declarations published, not just the leader of the opposition and what should happen, but hasn't happened in your case because you're not certified, the Prime Minister. So the whole question that has been asked is an excellent question. And we really need to step up our vigilance against corrupt behavior, nepotism and cronyism. The volume of scandals under this Jamaica Labour Party government is unprecedented. Over the number of ministers who have had to be removed from frontline duty, many of them parked in the naughty corner in OPM rather than being sacked. It is a disgrace to the country, and your personal situation where you're operating under a deep cloud because your Integrity Commission declarations are not certified also is something which Jamaica cannot go forward with.
We'll now take a short break, and we invite you to stay tuned.
To the communities we serve by empowering individuals.
Jamaica. Whenever you hear the grand promises from the PNP, remember this confession from their spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson.
We don't explain limitations when we campaign. We don't. None of us do because we want votes.
Don't believe them. Don't trust them. They are desperate and they're only trying to trick you.
Everything I grow and you lead out, them I watch you show. The vision real, the people want more.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by Young Jamaica.
the Reggae Boys, the road to FIFA World Cup qualification intensifies this September. On Tuesday, September 9, the National Stadium comes alive when the Reggae Boys battle arch rivals Trinidad and Tobago, starting at 7 p.m. Gates open at 4 p.m. Tickets to VIP $10,000, Grandstand $7,000, bleachers $2,000. Get yours now at jff.quaped.com. All the way, one team. Presented by the Jamaica Football Federation. Sponsors Adidas, Ray and Nephew, Sunshine Snacks, Water, Powerade, St. Mary's, True Shake, Stewart's, and Just Bet.
Being done if you with them, I gone with them till then sick. Say them a go back and dump and kick.
When the first man, I want to watch my son play finals for CBM, you know.
But mums, you can't watch it on CBM website, man.
Boy, my son score, my son score, my son score, my son score.
Greatness begins here.
This is the
doing good, building a sustainable future for all. That same unbeatable spirit runs through us. We are Arc Manufacturing, made of Jamaica.
This is your reminder on how to mark your ballot. Easy and confidential. When you receive your ballot, take a moment to read it carefully. Mark your ballot clearly with an X beside the symbol of the candidate of your choice. Use only the pencil provided. Make sure it is visible. Once you're done, fold the ballot as instructed and return it to the presiding officer. Your vote is your voice. Make your mark, make it count.
If you want $10,000 to spend this summer, what would you spend it on? Something nice? Something unforgettable?
So theme park or all inclusive?
Ask the experts.
If I win, you're not gonna see me in the same outfit twice.
Mommy, I got it covered. Tuition, everything, masters, here I come.
Invest in your future and celebrate while you're at it. Promotion ends September 14th. Conditions apply.
Team, we need to pass the ball quicker. Much quicker. And you need to make sure.
Need to.
I'm the coach. And I'm the assistant coach. No. Your job is to bring the water and keep us hydrated. Matter of fact, where's the water? I've got it, coach.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
Tomorrow's success will depend on the decisions we make today. At the Scotia Jamaica Foundation, supporting the well-being of our nation is more than a choice. It's a heartfelt promise to the communities we serve. By empowering individuals and organizations, we are revitalizing communities and creating a more sustainable world for every future.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future. Kendall, the taste of quality.
Sagicor Group, building trust one generation at a time.
Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group,
Lasco Chin Foundation,
Pan Jamaica Group,
Miss Birdie, H&L Homes,
and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the Leaders Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Dion Jackson Miller to start this segment with a question for Mr. Mark Golding.
Going back to the income tax proposal, Mr. Golding, because several people have been taking issue with your numbers. The PNP's assertion that it can fund the proposal through projected revenue growth doesn't seem to take into, as well as organic revenue growth, doesn't seem to take into account increase in expenditure. That's also projected, as well as low growth rates that no government in recent years has managed to overcome. Isn't it true that your numbers just don't add up?
The fiscal policy paper does project over the next 3 years some $160 billion of additional revenue. The degree to which there are accompanying expenses will depend on how we manage the expense side of the budget. There's also the fact that there are $360 billion of programs in the budget that represent the priorities of a given government at a particular point in time. When we are elected, we're not going to be elected to maintain the current trajectory that Jamaica is on. People want to see change. And most fundamentally, the issue really is the fact that we are coming to the end of the period of austerity, the period where Jamaica has been for 13 and a half years, steadfastly paying down debt. So that the debt to GDP ratio, which we inherited at 147% of GDP at the beginning of 2012, is now, in this fiscal year, projected to achieve the target of 60% of GDP. Once that happens, we no longer have to reduce debt as a priority. We just have to maintain that debt profile. That will release resources of 2.5% to 3% of GDP, which is close to $90 billion of additional resources, which no longer have to be part of your primary surplus target. So we will be able to fund our program quite comfortably come April next year, when the fiscal year starts.
Dr. Holness has...
there is a song which says, when the rum tells you you're a big dancer. I don't know what the leader of the opposition was drinking. Firstly, the debt to GDP for this fiscal year is not projected to be 60%. It is projected to be 65% thereabouts. If the leader of the opposition is depending on growth to provide the revenues for $75 billion of expenditure, the country would have to grow between 8 and 10%, which has not done that since the 60s. Thirdly, yes, there are $300 billion of programs. What are these programs? Pharmaceuticals.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Thank you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
Dr. Holness, you said on February 7, 2016 in Sam Sharp Square, Montego Bay, within our first 100 days in government, we will start the legislative process to fix the general election date in Jamaica. It's been 3,490 days since. In your May 2016 budget debate, you further stated the country should not be distracted by protracted periods of uncertainty. Yet, that's exactly what happened with this year's election. After 2 consecutive terms in office, you have failed to deliver on this promise. Why?
Your research into this matter, I respect the question, is incomplete. At the calling of the 2020 general elections, I explained to the public in Parliament that our government actually started work on fixed election date, and we found that it was inconsistent with our constitutional arrangements. And therefore, we did not include it in our 2020 manifesto. It is no longer a part of our platform. More to that, however, is the fact that in seeking to have all of these previous considerations included, we went about putting in place a constitutional reform commission that would bring all the considerations for constitutional reform under an expert review. That expert review was thwarted by the opposition. So, yes, these considerations were considered from 2016, but the reality of our constitutional arrangement made us take a different route, which is to go to a comprehensive constitutional reform, which was frustrated by the opposition.
Over to Mr. Golding to respond.
Just before I respond, just to point out that Mr. Holness's data is not current. The Fiscal Commissioner issued a release, I think it was today actually, indicating that with the National System of Accounts being updated, GDP has been adjusted, and we're now at 62% of GDP. That's what the debt is at the end of March this year, and we will more than likely achieve 60% this fiscal year. No, please, you're not entitled to do that. The flip-flopping from the Prime Minister is manifest. They were supposed to have impeachment. There's no impeachment. Fixed election day, no fixed election day. Ring fencing the NHT, they have taken over $130 billion out of the NHT. Cannot be trusted.
Just reminding that there is a format to the debate and asking the debaters to respect the format to which they have agreed. It's now time to go to the next question. Social media. Amoy Harriet, over to you.
This question comes from Janine. Parliament has passed a constitutional amendment bill and a referendum bill to transition Jamaica into a republic. Could you clarify the economic and administrative implications of this transition and how you intend to ensure that the process doesn't distract from Jamaica's economic priorities like debt reduction, investment diversification, and public services?
That question goes to Mr. Golding first and then to Dr. Holness.
In answer to the question, we can whistle and ride. So we have done very well as a nation in reducing our public debt. We ensured that the fiscal rules were very strong with an algorithm, an equation in the fifth schedule to the Financial Administration Audit Act that determines the fiscal balance that must be hit by each year's budget, and that has ensured that successive governments have stayed on course to take it down to 60%. We can do constitutional reform, but it requires authentic consultation with the people, and there must be an effort to have bipartisan consensus on critical issues. And we have not been able to achieve that consensus yet on the critical issue of decolonization, in particular our final court, which is now the Privy Council, the King's Court, that makes orders in the name of the King, as opposed to the regional court, which has been established, the Caribbean Court of Justice, which Jamaica helped to design, helped to fund, and which has developed over the last 20 years a reputation for independence and excellence. There are aspects of the bills that are in Parliament now that we have big problems with. In particular, the fact that effectively it will allow the Prime Minister to appoint the President, because a simple majority of both houses will do it if we do not agree who that person is. I think that is wrong. I think that the President of the country must command the trust and confidence of both sides of the political aisle and indeed the wider public.
Dr. Holness?
To be clear, the bills before Parliament do not give the Prime Minister the ability to appoint the President. We are the party that have advanced the greatest, the process of repatriating our sovereignty. I am a Jamaican through and through, and I want to see my country's sovereignty represented by a Jamaican. It puzzles me as to why the opposition is trying to frustrate this. The opposition says we must always consult the people, yet they do not want to consult the people on a fundamental architecture of our society, our final court of appeal. They are inconsistent, they are hypocritical, flip-floppers. They were the ones who nudged, encouraged, and agreed with the government that a process should be started for the repatriation of our sovereignty. Midway the process, they have turned around to say they have challenges with it. What is it that they really want? Are you truly a Jamaican?
It's time for our next question. It is from Dion Jax Miller, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, the PNP is promising a tax break for small businesses for the first 3 years of formally incorporating, as well as a raft of other targeted tax relief measures. How do you respond to criticisms that your tax plan reintroduces inefficiencies, tax avoidance, and corruption into the tax system that have been eliminated over the past 15 years?
First of all, I think the Prime Minister repeated innuendo or direct attack which has been leveled by his party on my nationality. And, you know, I just wanted to just make it absolutely clear that I am indeed born here as a Jamaican. Here is my birth certificate, and it shows I was born at the University Hospital on July 19th, 1965, and it's right here. I hope your cabinet can pick it up. And I have a copy for you, Prime Minister, right here. And I wish you could provide me with a copy of your certification, but of course you can't do so. Now, on the question of tax, there's a third schedule to the GCT Act now, which has a long list of items which are not subject to GCT that are exempt. We feel that laptops and other devices are critical tools of trade, and it is wrong to tax them, and we are going to add them to that list. And similarly, sports equipment, which is vital for social cohesion. Sports is a critical part of keeping young people away from straying down the wrong path and so on. Why are we taxing those items? That cost of living is already high. So I don't agree. The system we have already caters for items which should not be taxed. And we're simply saying we want to adjust those items to include things that should be there but are not yet there.
Dr. Holness?
The Jamaica Labour Party is the only political organization to have reduced taxes. We reduced the GCT from 16.5% to 15%. And we have done so in a way that has not compromised our revenues or the sustainability of future programs. All, and I repeat, all the tax suggestions and promises of the opposition will compromise our fiscal arrangements and place us back in debt or result in increased taxes. The best way to provide social services is to identify the persons who need it.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
The Rio Cobre is a major water source for the St. Catherine Plains and communities in and around Spanish Town. Yet, since 2019, under your watch as Environment Minister, there have been close to a dozen chemical spills, causing fish kills and disrupting lives. You say you're a champion of the environment. Why hasn't there been tougher sanctions for the repeated breaches of environmental permits by the companies culpable?
The Jamaica Labour Party has put in very tough sanctions, including the requirement for the provision of bonds. We are the only government to have called these bonds and brought polluters to court. We have also started the process of studying the Rio Cobre to ensure that there is no discharge into the Rio Cobre. And this is something that I am personally very serious about, and we will put in legislation to end discharge into the Rio Cobre. It becomes even more important as we have now put in place the Content Rio Cobre water project, for which we are pulling 15 million gallons of water from the Rio Cobre per day. So we must protect that asset, and I give the public my sincere commitment that we will protect the Rio Cobre.
Mr. Golding?
Quickly, just to say that the JLP is not the only party to have reduced taxes. The PNP reduced the personal income tax rate from 33.3% to 25%. We reduced the GCT rate from 17.5% to 16%. There's been reductions of taxes on both sides. They plan to reduce, they say, income tax from 25 to 15, which is going to help the rich and the ministers who pay themselves 200+% pay increases. On the environmental issue, you are the one who overturned NEPA's decision not to grant a permit for the mining of the Dry Harbour Mountains, which is a very sensitive nature reserve. You're flip-flopping again, Andrew.
Our next question is from social media. Over to Amoy Harriot.
Well, Archie, Delanor says many Jamaicans would like to see the full rollout of body-worn cameras on our police officers, even more so now given the increase in fatal police shootings. Will this be something that you'll prioritize should you be elected?
Mr. Golding will respond first.
First of all, I think it's very important to acknowledge and commend the excellent work done by the police force over the last year and a half in bringing the rate of violent crime, in particular murders in the country, down from the intolerable levels where it had been under this government. More murders committed in Andrew Holness's 2 years in office than any other 2-year term in the history of Jamaica. The police have finally abandoned the failed policies that we did our best to stop, the mass use of states of emergency, which the court has ruled as unconstitutional, and have gone now to a much more targeted approach, a much more strategically sound approach. Having said that, we do feel that it's very important that the public as a whole must have trust and confidence in the police, because the police rely on intelligence and information from the public. And therefore, if the public feel that there's excessive use of force and there's no accountability for it, they're not going to be as cooperative as we need them to be. I think, therefore, it's in the interest of the Jamaican society and the police themselves to have the benefit of body-worn cameras, especially when they go on special operations, so there can be no question, nobody can accuse them wrongly of having used excessive force when the force was legitimate as used. And to the extent that there may occasionally be an excessive use of force, the persons are held accountable for that in accordance with the law. That's what the rule of law requires.
Dr. Holness?
The government is already in the process of procuring and acquiring body-worn cameras. Several thousands of them are under procurement and will be deployed shortly to the police force. We consider this as absolutely important in giving confidence to the public regarding the actions of the police force. And the police themselves want to have these cameras as protection for themselves. Interestingly, however, the leader of the opposition states that the states of public emergency did not work. Now, murders under the PNP increased to over 1,000 murders in 1997 and remained there for over 30 years. It is the Jamaica Labour Party in 3 consecutive years that have reduced murders by 55%. The states of public emergency worked. The states of public emergency were supported by the PNP when Peter Phillips was the leader of the opposition, and it reduced murders by 27%. Since we did not have the cooperation of the opposition, murders went up. A question must be asked: who is responsible for the increase in murders when there was a tool that could have saved lives? It is a serious question.
No, Giovanni Dennis has indicated that he would like to ask one of his 2 follow-up questions. I believe that question will go to
Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, I want to go back to the matter of your dual citizenship. It took days for you to confirm that you held dual citizenship and weeks for you to renounce it. Why didn't you acknowledge the issue upfront, and why should Jamaicans believe you will be forthcoming with them on any issue, even if it's uncomfortable in the first instance?
I didn't hesitate to acknowledge dual citizenship. I was born in Jamaica. I had a British father, and I inherited British citizenship by descent from him. And that's lawful under the laws of Jamaica, and indeed parliamentarians in Jamaica are permitted to be dual nationals. I therefore didn't consider it to be something which was problematic. However, when it was raised last year and politicized, I decided I want to know what the Jamaican people felt about it, because I thought really my response ought to be driven by them. We did an internal poll. It showed that a majority thought I should renounce, and so I did. And I renounced my British citizenship in August last year.
Dr. Holness, rebuttal.
You know, this is a strange one. A man who wants to represent his country must choose his country. He doesn't need to ask anyone. He should choose. And that's why we say we choose Jamaica. It is indeed of concern that it was not until your 40s, when you were becoming a minister of government, that you sought to have a Jamaican passport. It is not your birth that makes you Jamaican. It is the choices you make for your country, including supporting a process that would make a Jamaican head of state here, including getting a Jamaican passport.
Our next question is from social media. Over to Amoy, and that question will go to Mr. Golding.
On TikTok, Taj says, given the current negotiations surrounding the U.S. Keep Call Centers in America Act and its potential to impact over 50,000 Jamaican BPO workers, how does your administration plan to safeguard both employment and livelihoods for young Jamaicans if outsourcing opportunities decline?
That's a good question, and the truth is that the evolution of technology, especially the advent of artificial intelligence, is also a threat to the type of services that are provided through outsourcing. So we are going to have to ensure that we try and upskill our existing workforce so that they can be trained to do the type of tasks that technology isn't going to be as adept at dealing with as human beings. And we also have to provide other avenues for employment for young people. That's why we're going to establish the Youth Innovation Fund, which will provide grants and loans to young people to get them into business if they want to get into business. And it will enable them to pursue their talents in tech or in creative industries or any other area of endeavor so that they can express themselves, help to monetize their talent and build brand Jamaica. And so those are the types of things that need to be done. We also want to emphasize training and the role of the private sector in training. We'll be giving an incentive, a dollar-for-dollar matching of all businesses who invest in upskilling and training. We will match their investment through the HEART program to encourage them to invest further in training and upskilling the workforce so they can employ more people in higher paying jobs. Right now, too many of our people are struggling in low income jobs, low wage jobs, low tech jobs.
The same question goes to Dr. Holness.
Well, let me give you some practical and real answers instead of hairy-fairy stuff. Jamaica is already positioning itself for nearshoring and friendly shoring of the recalibration of the global supply chain. And that is why we have made a massive investment in the Caymana's development and in Raintree. These are real investments that will bring production to Jamaica and jobs to Jamaica. We have already started to ensure that over 120,000 Jamaican youths can access training free of cost under HEART. And much of that training is in support of not just BPO, but logistics. But more than that, we saw the change in technology coming and the impact it will have. And that is why we have invested in a coding and technology academy, the Amber Heart Academy, where hundreds of Jamaican youth are trained in not just the basics, but as high up as data science. Because what we want to create in our society are the trained skills that can attract the jobs that we are already negotiating for. You have a government that understands the changing global dynamics.
Thank you, Dr.
and putting in
Holness.
place measures to take advantage of it.
We will now take a short break and we invite you to stay tuned.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
When you want the food shell and make the rice well, just gimme me Kendall. Anytime I did here, night as well, just gimme me Kendall. Everybody can tell this good great smell, just gimme me Kendall. Number one in flavor, no parallel, hard quality, you know we excel. Spell it out, Kendel. Gimme me Kendall.
Another quality product from the CariMed Group.
Just gimme me Kendall.
Tomorrow's success will depend on the decisions we make today. At the Scotia Jamaica Foundation, supporting the well-being of our nation is more than a choice. It's a heartfelt promise to the communities we serve. By empowering individuals and organizations, we are revitalizing communities and creating a more sustainable world for every future.
At Flow, we understand your rhythm. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you. with a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do. And our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
We love our country. Like you, we take pride in building Jamaica. The resilience of our people is cemented in our products, built to last for generations. Laying the foundation for thriving communities, we're committed to excellence and quality. Quality products, quality relationships. We're all proud Jamaicans, working hard, doing good, building a sustainable future for all. That same unbeatable spirit runs through us. We are ARC Manufacturing, made of Jamaica.
If you want $10,000 to spend this summer, what would you spend it on? Something nice? Something unforgettable?
So theme park or all inclusive?
Ask the experts. If I win, you're not gonna see me in the same outfit twice.
Mommy, I got it covered. Tuition, everything, masters, here I come.
Invest in your future and celebrate while you're at it. Promotion ends September 14th. Conditions apply.
Team, we need to pass the ball quicker.
Much quicker.
And you need to make sure. I'm the coach. And I'm the assistant coach. No. Your job is to bring the water and keep us hydrated. Matter of fact, where's the water?
Ed. I've got it, coach.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
When you want the food shell and make the rice well, just gimme me candle. Any time of the day, night as well, just gimme me candle. Everybody can tell this good great smell, just gimme me candle. Number one in flavor, no parallel. Hot quality, you know we excel. Spell it out, K-E-N-D-E-L. Gimme me candle.
Another quality product from the Carimed Group.
Just gimme me candle.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future. Kendall, the taste of quality.
Sagicor Group, building trust one generation at a time.
Flow, NCB, ARC Manufacturing. Water, JN Group.
Lasco Chin Foundation.
Pan Jamaica Group. Miss Birdie,
H&L Homes.
and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the Leaders Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, again, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. We now ask Dion Jackson Miller to start this segment with a question for Dr. Andrew Holness.
2021, you were appointed to the Queen's Privy Council and the Ancient Advisory Body, and your administration's recent attempt at constitutional reform would have seen the removal of the British monarch from Jamaica's Parliament and Executive in Phase 1, but not from our judiciary. Opposition or no opposition, referendum or not, can you tell us your position, whether you support the removal of the Privy Council as Jamaica's final court, and if so, when?
My position is that Jamaica should have its own local court as its final appellate court. But I also do respect the Caribbean Court of Justice, of which we are a part of its original jurisdiction. I will say, however, that on a matter as important as this, that forms the architecture of our nation, the people must be consulted. And that is why I put in place a process that would begin these consultations in a practical and phased basis, a process which has been thwarted by the opposition. Now, the leader of the opposition raises questions about democracy. On one hand, he does not want to consult. He wants the government to just act without consulting with the people, but then turns around and says that we are the ones undermining democracy. The leader of the opposition must be consistent. Democracy requires us to consult the people on these critical matters.
Mr. Golding?
Yes, Mr. Holness, shortly before the visit of Prince William to Jamaica, became a member of the King's Privy Council. So one has to wonder how he was choosing Jamaica when he did that. Anyway, to answer the question, we want to follow the Constitution, and the Constitution has been ruled by the Privy Council as the highest court as not requiring a referendum for the decision as to whether or not the CCJ should become the final court replacing the Privy Council. And that is what we think ought to be done. No other country that has moved away from the Privy Council has had a referendum to do so, and there are good reasons for that.
Our next question is from Giovanni Dennis, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, the PNP under your leadership has flip-flopped on a number of issues. For example, Julian Robinson on May 16, 2023 said the opposition takes no issue with the massive salary increase for parliamentarians. The very next day, the PNP released a statement objecting to the increase. Why should Jamaicans trust that you won't similarly make about turns on promises you are making now?
When Julian said that in Parliament, he was referring to the principle of parliamentarians getting an increase. He wasn't addressing the specifics of what was being proposed. We hadn't had a discussion around those specifics. When we looked at the details and we saw the massive increase that the Prime Minister was proposing for himself and for his ministers, we felt it was unconscionable to do that in the context where the public sector workers had just had their salary negotiations under some duress in relation to the teachers in particular, finalized, and many of them were getting 20% over 2 years. That is why we had to clarify our position, because it was not in accordance with what we thought that principle demanded. Now, over time, thinking can evolve. People change their positions on issues. So, for example, we are looking at this whole question of the 3.5 salary, the $3.5 million threshold increase. And we've seen where, as the debt target is achieved and resources can be released, it can be afforded. We weren't calling for 3.5 2 years ago, but we see that the need, inflation, etc., have happened. Cost of living pressures are there. Our evolution, our thinking has evolved, and we think that this is the right thing to do now, and we're committing ourselves to it. So, you know, I don't think the criticism is justified.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Dr. Holness now has...
I have to call out that the leader of the opposition is telling lies. Julian Robinson stood in Parliament and said he supported the increase. Clear, and the tapes are there. Secondly, he calls the increase unconscionable, yet he takes it. I, Andrew Michael Holness, did not take it. The option was available to him as well. I chose not to take it. The leader of the opposition says, I have 28 bank accounts. That is absolutely not true. The report of the Integrity Commission includes accounts that are closed, accounts that are dormant, insurance accounts, and investment accounts.
Thank you.
They have weaponized
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Our next question is from Dion Jackson-Miller, and it goes to Dr. Holness.
Dr. Holness, in your 2016 manifesto, you said, quote, will make it mandatory that the appointment to sensitive posts be approved by a two-thirds majority in each House of Parliament, thereby requiring consensus between government and opposition. Now, the post identified included the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions. Not only did you not implement this, but you disregarded the opposition's objections in the case of the recent extension, which led to a court case. Wasn't this a betrayal of the principle of bipartisanship that you had been proposing 9 years before?
Absolutely not. And indeed, in some instances, there are parliamentary review of sensitive positions. And I want to be also very clear that the constitutional reform process that we have put in place would take into consideration all of these proposals that were made. We cannot tinker with the Constitution, doing a little thing here and a little thing there, and therefore we decided to put it in a comprehensive process, again, which the opposition has thwarted. But since I have some time, let me also address some other issues about the leader of the opposition. In my own Integrity Commission report published in Parliament, there were no findings of corruption. All my assets are in Jamaica, and I have declared everything to the Integrity Commission. The leader of the opposition, however, also had a report from the Contractor General previously, which found that they benefited from public resources in an irregular way. They termed it a sweetheart deal. In my report, there is no such thing. None of my resources are ever connected to any public funds or any public resources. However, for the leader of the opposition, the report was very clear that their operations were considered to be irregular and a sweetheart.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Mr. Golding has an opportunity to respond.
The Prime Minister has no interest in bipartisanship. He has strong dictatorial tendencies and really would prefer not to consult with the opposition at all if he didn't have to. And I say that based on my experience with him over the last 5 years. He talks about he didn't want to tinker with the Constitution. Then why did he seek to amend the Constitution as a one-off, tabling the bill and seeking to pass it on the same day to extend the DPP's tenure beyond what was constitutionally allowed? That was tinkering, Prime Minister, so come on. And in terms of Integrity Commission reports, my declarations have been certified every year as being proper. Yours have not, because you are under investigation for illicit enrichment.
Mr. Golding. Our follow-up question now, Dion Jackson-Miller has indicated she'd like to use the first of her follow-up questions.
On the same issue of the DPP's appointment, Principal Dr. Holness doesn't require constitutional amendments, though. And if it is that you were committed to the principle of bipartisanship, why would you have rejected such strongly worded opposition coming from the opposition leader?
At the end of the day, this matter was taken to the court, and the courts decided, and the DPP was reinstated. I want to also clarify something that the leader of the opposition said. The investigations carried out by the Integrity Commission are at an end. I am not currently under any investigation. There were no findings of corruption or charges. The leader of the opposition continues to try to weaponize these things because that is the only crutch he has to stand on. I, Andrew Holness, am thoroughly transparent.
Thank you, Dr. Holness.
Thank you, Dr.
Holness. Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Again, Andrew Holness is being disingenuous and tricky. The Integrity Commission referred his matters to the Financial Investigations Division, a law enforcement agency charged with investigating serious financial crimes, for further investigation. What was his response? When there was a vacancy at the head of it, he sought to appoint or influence the appointment of somebody who is his close personal friend and who had said publicly on nationwide radio that he didn't see anything wrong in the report on Mr. Holness's financial situation, the Integrity Commission's report. It was clearly a set-up job, and we feel that very strongly that this needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Our next question is from social media. I'm going to hand over to Amoy.
Malik on Facebook says many Jamaicans feel the economic growth that's been reported hasn't lowered their grocery bills or electricity costs. How do you measure economic success beyond the statistics?
Dr. Holness has the opportunity to respond first.
The first measure is income. And 280,000 jobs have been created in Jamaica, which means that more Jamaicans have income. There is a rise in income. Let's look at the minimum wage. The Jamaica Labour Party government has tripled the minimum wage. So there are more Jamaicans earning more at the lower levels of our country. Further, access to basic amenities. 350,000 Jamaicans have access to potable water, and in our next term, we will ensure that the 900,000 Jamaicans which now don't have reliable or full access to water will have access to water. Transportation, public transportation. We have done an amazing job in reducing bus fares and increasing the convenience and efficiency of public transportation, including implementing a rural bus fare system. On electricity, we have reduced the GCT on electricity, a promise made by the previous government and not kept. We have done it in a sustainable way. But more importantly, we have not placed any new taxes on the people of Jamaica since our government has been managing the fiscal affairs of this country.
Mr. Golding has an opportunity to respond.
First of all, I think the question is sound because statistics don't tell the full picture. Jamaica's competitiveness has been falling, yet they say that we have record low unemployment. Several 100,000 Jamaicans are outside the labor force and are not measured for that purpose. And indeed, you're regarded as being employed if you're employed 1 hour a week. 55% of Jamaicans are suffering from food insecurity. That is what the United Nations says, the FAO, which is an agency of the UN, says. 55% of Jamaicans are not getting adequate nutrition. That is not consistent with prosperity or low poverty rates or low unemployment rates. As for transportation costs, those are extremely high for many Jamaicans, which is why we want to introduce the RIDE program, a subsidy for rural children to help them to get to school in an affordable way. It's $10,000 per child who needs it in each family. So if you have more than one child, each one of them would qualify for this, because we recognize that that is one of the causes of absenteeism in schools at the moment. As for electricity, the rate and cost of electricity under this government has gone way higher than where we left it at 23 cents per kilowatt hour. Now it's over 40. And as for the GCT, they are providing a subsidy at the moment, but they haven't said for how long, and there's no commitment to keep it on.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. We are now going to be taking a short break, and we invite you to stay tuned.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
Tomorrow's success will depend on the decisions we make today. At the Scotia Jamaica Foundation, supporting the well-being of our nation is more than a choice. It's a heartfelt promise to the communities we serve. By empowering individuals and organizations, we are revitalizing communities and creating a more sustainable world for every future.
When you want the food shell and make the rice well, just give me me candle. Any time of the day, night as well, just give me me candle. Everybody can tell, taste good, great smell, just give me candle. Number one in flavor, no parallel, top quality, you know we excel. Spell it out, K-E-N-D.
quality product from the CariMed Group.
Just give me the candle.
At Flow, we understand your rhythm. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you. With a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do. And our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing. No matter what.
We love our country. Like you, we take pride in building Jamaica. The resilience of our people is cemented in our products, built to last for generations. Laying the foundation for thriving communities, we're committed to excellence and quality. Quality products, quality relationships. We're all proud Jamaicans, working hard, doing good, building a sustainable future for all. That same unbeatable spirit runs through us. We are Arc Manufacturing, made of Jamaica.
If you want $10,000 to spend this summer, what would you spend it on? Something nice? Something unforgettable?
So theme park or all inclusive?
Ask the experts. If I win, you're not gonna see me in the same outfit twice.
Mommy, I got it covered. Tuition, everything, masters, here I come.
Invest in your future and celebrate while you're at it. Promotion ends September 14th. Conditions apply.
Team, we need to pass the ball quicker, much quicker. And you need to make sure. Need to. I'm the coach. And I'm the assistant coach. No. Your job is to bring the water and keep us hydrated. Matter of fact, where's the water? I've got it, coach.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
The general elections debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Scotiabank for every future. Kendall, the taste of quality.
Sagicor Group, building trust one generation at a time.
Flow, NCB, Arc Manufacturing, Water, JN Group,
Lasco Chin Foundation,
Pan Jamaica Group,
Miss Birdie, H&L Homes,
and VM Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Leaders' Debate presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. We invite you, the public, to send us your questions via direct message on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to Jamaica Debates. Now, this segment actually begins with a follow-up question. Giovanni Dennis has indicated that he'd like to ask one of his follow-up questions, and that goes to Dr. Andrew Holness.
Dr. Holness, on the matter of your government's hostility towards accountability institutions, in a world where journalists reporting on the conflict in Gaza are being murdered, the constant attacks on the press in Jamaica by both political parties undermine press freedom and has been reflected in Jamaica's slippage on the World Press Freedom Index. We have just seen the release of the names of journalists that both political parties objected to participating in the national debates. Why do both parties continue to undermine press freedom and put journalists in danger?
To be clear, my political party does not undermine press freedom. To be clear, my political party did not object. The objections came from the PNP. And historically, it is the PNP that has been vociferous, including attacking a particular radio station. I personally have stayed away from any negative commentary about any journalists. Journalists are important, and I support strong journalism. And I want to make that absolutely clear. In the time I have, I will rebut. I am in no way associated with the head of the FID. My understanding is that the head of the FID is a friend of the leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Press freedom is a fundamental pillar on which democracy is based, and I and my party fully support press freedom. The Prime Minister said something which was untrue when he said that only our side objected to some journalists. Their side also objected. In fact, we objected to 3, they objected to 4 journalists, and the matter was eventually resolved, and here we are. And the truth is that some journalists in the country are not as independent as others, are not as professional as others, and it is quite legitimate to criticize persons who you don't feel are living up to the standards of their profession. But we would never do anything to threaten or undermine press freedom, or indeed to make any journalist feel unsafe. And if it ever happens, we'll take out whatever it needs to stop it happening.
Thank you, Mr. Golding. Our next question is from Dion Jax-Miller, and it goes to Mr. Golding.
Mr. Golding, Coswell Barnett is a blind Jamaican who is also a very experienced and very qualified teacher, but who was out of a job for 4 years. Now, your manifesto promises to protect the right of persons with disabilities. Those Jamaicans are disproportionately affected by poverty. Vision 2030 says that governments haven't been living up to a reserve a percentage of public sector jobs for persons with disabilities. That would have helped people like Mr. Barnett and others like him. Would a PNP government implement such a recommendation?
Thank you for that question, Dion. I come from a family that has delivered transformational national service to the country, in particular in the area of persons with disabilities. My father was the first orthopedic surgeon in Jamaica, and he established what was then the Polio Center, became the Mona Rehabilitation Center. And when he died in 1996, it was named after him. It's now called the Sir John Golding Rehab Center. He also established the Hope Valley Experimental School, a school for integrated education for able-bodied and children with disabilities. 2 parliamentarians went to that school, and he established the National Road Safety Council, because of his awareness of the fact that many people who end up with disabilities is as a result of road traffic accidents. I am and we are very committed to implementing the UN Convention for the Persons with Disabilities, which Jamaica was the first country in the hemisphere to sign. And we are the ones who passed the Disabilities Act, brought it to Parliament. This government took 7 years to bring it into effect. We're glad it's in effect, but it needs to be actualized now in practice so that persons with disabilities feel and see the benefits of it. We are fully committed to that, and we are going to establish a National Disabilities Fund to aid persons with disabilities so that they can have their assistive aids, they can get help to establish themselves in business at home, and improve sidewalks for their transportation. We are committed to the community of persons with disabilities.
Dr. Holness has the opportunity to respond.
To be clear, one of the things that I'm very proud of is that my administration has reserved, under special orders through the NHT, houses for persons with disability. They have a direct access. Under the new social housing program, we make it a point of duty to support persons with disabilities, and many persons with disabilities have benefited. Our administration have brought into effect the Disabilities Act. We continue to support the disabled community with grants and an increase in path benefits. Our government is committed to supporting persons with disability in Jamaica.
Dion Jax-Miller has indicated that she would like to take her second follow-up question.
Yes, Mr. Golding, we hear the broad statements of policy and principle, but what persons with disabilities want are jobs, which is why I'm asking specifically if your administration would implement a recommendation to reserve a certain percentage of public sector jobs for persons with disabilities.
Yes, we have committed to that. Across MDNAs, ministries, departments and agencies, that we would like to see quotas or an allocation for the disability community to have the benefit of employment opportunities in the public sector. But we also recognize the need to ensure that those who have the capacity to deliver services or to make things at home are empowered to do so. And that's why we have the National Disabilities Fund, which we will establish to help them to get a start in life in the area of business and fulfill their talents and monetize their talents so they can uplift themselves and their families from their homes. So yes, we're fully on board with the idea that you mentioned, Jan.
Dr. Holness, to rebut?
Most definitely. We will do that, and we will do more. In fact, at the Office of the Prime Minister, we do make it a point of duty to ensure that persons with disabilities are employed at the Office of the Prime Minister, and we will give that directive, if it is not already in effect, to all the ministries. But more than that, people with disabilities want to be independent, and they want to work independently, many of them. And we, through various initiatives, including through the various development funds that we have, will provide resources to persons with disability so that they can start their own businesses. And I think that is really the critical thing, to ensure that our persons with disability are independently earning income.
Our next question still goes to Dr. Holness, and it comes from Giovanni Dennis.
Dr. Holness, communities like Charlemont, Birdsucker, Acadia, and many others across the corporate area have complained and have taken the government to court for inadequately regulated developments. Justice Hart Hines, in a 2021 ruling, said the KSAMC and NEPA have been dilatory in their mandate to enforce local planning laws and regulations. In December 2021, it said work was being done to restructure the entire approval process. Yet the issues persist. Why isn't more being done to force the KSAMC and the NEPA to do their jobs to enforce the building regulations?
When that comment was made, the situation was as you have said. Since then, there have been significant improvement in enforcement, and including a new planning order for Kingston and St. Andrew, which clarifies many of the issues that were in contention, including we have included more inspection officers at the KSAMC, and there are more cases now being brought to court which are being prosecuted. So there has been an improvement. However, I believe that there is still much more work to be done in terms of increasing the enforcement capabilities. And yes, there are some legislative changes that need to be clarified, particularly as to how titles are issued and how densities are approved.
Mr. Golding has the opportunity to respond.
Since the People's National Party assumed the leadership in the council of the KSAMC, the new Mayor Andrew Swaby has been pursuing internal governance reform, including persons from outside, to try and improve standards and processes, make them more transparent and effective, so that the citizens of the corporate area can expect higher levels of governance. I think it's unfortunate that in the case of Mr. Holness and his wife, they are in the business of real estate development, or certainly she is, and that presents serious conflicts of interest which have manifested themselves in some of their own schemes that they have developed. I think we need to have rules which preclude that kind of activity so that there's no question of conflicts of interest.
We've come to the point in the debate when the debaters get an opportunity to ask each other questions. We begin, we invite Mr. Golding to ask a question of Dr. Andrew Holness.
Mr. Holness, the Integrity Commission in their court filing in the case that you brought to try and strike down the act and eliminate the offence for which you are being investigated, have said that you had money in the Ponzi scheme Olint and you got it out, while others suffered losses. You had money in Cash Plus, another Ponzi scheme where people lost lots of money, you got it out. And of course, you had money in SSL, and you were able to withdraw your money before it collapsed. In fact, I would say the only person that Usain Bolt has not been able to catch up with is you. And I want to ask you, how do you think and why do you think the people of Jamaica should trust you to be in charge of the governance of the country for a third term with that track record and with that cloud hanging over your head?
The leader of the opposition is a liar and cannot be trusted. I lost money in Cash Plus and Olint. However, the PNP accepted and received $1 million from Olin. He has no credibility to talk about Ponzi scheme. They benefited from the Ponzi scheme to fund their election campaign. He questions my wife's integrity about development. My wife and my family are hardworking Jamaicans. We started off with the taxes like many other Jamaicans, and I have worked hard. He has sought to weaponize that. But the people who receive me when I go into the country, they say, Andrew, don't worry. No weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Mr. Golding, your rebuttal.
I've made the point that for the Prime Minister and his wife to be in the real estate business when so many of the agencies of government which regulate that business fall under his ministry of economic development and job creation creates the possibilities for conflicts of interest, and I stick by that position.
We now invite Dr. Andrew Holness to ask a question of Mr. Mark Golding.
The leader of the opposition speaks about integrity and trust. He was an advisor to a former Minister of Finance that put in place a policy of high interest rate, for which he acted as a broker for the government to invest loans and bonds for which he received a commission of high interest rate, to the point where one of his members described this as the greatest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich. He, the Toponaris lawyer, has made billions of this, yet he does not disclose this in his integrity report. In fact, he doesn't even have a house in Jamaica. How can we believe you? And do you have assets in overseas companies for which you have not disclosed?
I've disclosed all my assets, and that's why my Integrity Commission declarations are certified. Your allegations are scurrilous and false. You made reference to DBNG, although you didn't call the name. DBNG was established in 1992 as an investment firm by 3 young Jamaican entrepreneurs. When the financial sector meltdown occurred some years later, and FinSAC was established as a response to try and protect the savers of this country so they didn't lose their money in their deposits in the banking system and their pensions and so on, DBNG, like other financial firms at the time, had to navigate that carefully to survive. We eventually were approached by a leading international bank, Scotiabank, who did a thorough due diligence on the company. It's a listed company where we were a listed company from inception. Our audited financial statements are public. Our quarterly financial statements are public. They looked at us inside out and upside down, found nothing, absolutely nothing untoward, and they bought the company. And we have nothing to hide on when it comes to DBNG. I would say, why is your government, having spent $200 million on this commission of inquiry into FinSAC, hiding the FinSAC report? Is it because you and your wife bought a house from somebody who had been FinSAC'd? You're a hypocrite, Andrew Holness, to be accusing me of anything in relation to FinSAC when you have been a direct beneficiary of the losses of somebody who was FinSAC, who lost their home because of FinSAC.
Again, you go to attacking my wife when you, according to the Contractor General's report, benefited from a sweetheart deal that was irregular. You benefited off the backs of the Jamaican people in creating your wealth. You were a connected party with the then Minister of Finance, and you advised and created the FinSAC debacle with high interest rate. You benefited from FinSAC. I did not purchase a FinSAC house. I bought a house on the open market. And again, you come with weaponized lies. Your lies will not work.
We now go to closing statements. Now, based on the earlier coin toss, Mr. Mark Golding of the PNP will go first.
The general election next week, Wednesday, presents a historic opportunity for the people of Jamaica. After 13.5 years of belt tightening and austerity, we are finally in a situation where the debt to GDP ratio has achieved or is on the cusp of achieving the 60%, which was written into the fiscal rules by Portia Simpson Miller. That means that the fiscal rules and prudent economic management can change gear and look at how we can grow the economy and build a society with a better quality of life for all. We see some serious issues that need to be addressed. 700,000 Jamaicans or thereabouts live on public land, lands where they've built their homes, but they don't have titles. The colonial era law set the period as 60 years of occupation before they can get ownership. We are going to reduce that to 25 years. We're going to give them titles. And that is going to unlock over $1 trillion of wealth, which is now sealed up and quarantined in the old colonial era law that is still on the books. That is why also we're increasing the threshold to 3.5 million, so working families who are struggling to make ends meet can get a little break so they can live a better life. It's why we're going to be removing the tax from the overtime pay of workers earning up to $6 million so they can make it easier in life as well. And when I govern the country as Prime Minister to serve you, I will ensure that accountability and transparency are at the center of what we do, and any hanky-panky, any violation of the public trust will be met with the full force of the law with no protection from me. And that is a huge difference between the government I will lead and the government of Andrew Holness. That is why I'm asking you, on Election Day, next Wednesday, vote for the People's National Party, put your X beside the head, time come for a better life.
We now invite Dr. Andrew Holness of the JLP to go ahead with your closing statement.
The administration that I lead on your behalf has cut the debt in half. We have created 280,000 new jobs, brought in 85,000 persons into the labor force. We have tripled the minimum wage. We have cut murders by 55% over the last 3 years. You have had no new taxes to worry about. This administration has taken on the previously thought of impossible to solve problems, and we have solved them. We are an administration of performance. In our next term, our pensioners who have worked so hard will get a break. Those earning $6 million or below will pay no income tax. We will give a new income tax rate, which will be graduated, which will see everyone paying lower taxes. You will see 60,000 more houses being brought on the market, with 15% of them dedicated to young people. We will give incentives to developers to build houses for young people. You will see a new transportation system for rural school children coming into being. You will see more work being done on reducing electricity. Our government is a government of performance. This election is about a clear choice. Promise or performance. That's what it is. You have to make a decision. Who can deliver? It is this administration that has taken on the difficult problems, and we have delivered for you. I ask you on Election Day to vote for what is best for Jamaica. Vote for a government that performs. Vote for the Jamaica Labour Party.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Holness. Thank you, Mr. Golding. In the good spirit of the debates, we now invite Dr. Holness and Mr. Golding to shake hands. And now we can breathe. That concludes the leadership debate between party leader Dr. Andrew Holness, representing the Jamaica Labour Party, and party leader Mr. Mark Golding, representing the People's National Party. Our sincere thanks to both party leaders and all the debaters. This was the final debate in the 2025 General Election Debate Series. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our studio audience, our production crew, production and funding partners, and most of all, our viewers and listeners all across Jamaica and the diaspora. I am Archibald Gordon. Good night.
into the post-debate analysis here on Lead Story, the special edition National Debates Vibe. We're talking
Prescription and economic program proposals, not least the 3.5 threshold on the part of the PNP, and the GLP is 15%. For me, all in all, the debate was a useful and spirited one. Perhaps too many of the, an overkill, as it were, in terms of some of the attempts at, personal attacks. You would have heard Mr. Atkins earlier for warning, as it were, about the ad hominem, because there's a segment of the viewership who consider those things as detracting, as it were, from some of the issues that the people really want to hear about and the issues that people want to really care about. But in the main, for me, the clear and distinct winner of the debate is Andrew Michael Holness. He, in keeping with what I have noted here as the issues I want to hear about in the debate and what I want to glean from the debate, has exhibited a command of the issues, a grasp of the issues. He has set out, to the extent that the questions afforded him so to do, a vision for Jamaica's development and transformation. You heard him trotting out issues in relation to skills training for young people. And of course, he mentioned technology park. He mentioned coding, such things as, the jobs that will yield higher paying jobs, the things that will yield higher paying jobs. So Holness is the winner for me. Mark Golding came with, a clear agenda to delve into propaganda and, of course, peddle falsehoods on the national stage, and those things were called out, as it were, by Mr. Holness, including the allegation that Mr. Holness purchased a home from a person who was fin-sacked, not Nagoso, in plain and clear Jamaican terms.
All right, Mr. Bent, I don't know how you're going to choose your winner, but hold on the winner and so forth. For now,
which is good.
Yes.
Yeah, which is good. In debating, there's something called early call.
All right.
And my early call really is it's even Stevens. Maybe after discourse we can do another weighting, but right now it's pretty even.
Yeah,
no, I think overall, I'm not disappointed. I'm excited. It was a wonderful intellectual debate. Both men sparred. They shared their visions and their ideas, and it was really and truly good to hear them. They both sounded confident. They both sounded as if they know what they're talking about. They have earned their spaces as leaders of their separate parties.
Did these debates in any way sway, do you perceive, Mr. Atkins? React. Just react. Tell me what you felt, what you saw, what you learned.
Honestly, it was a debate that I think clarified for me the integrity, I'd say, first of all, and the character of a lot of the both leaders, actually. In terms of will it sway a lot of people, I think Mark Golding really outdid himself. And I think that is something that would probably sway a few people, I guess. In terms of the issues being discussed, though, I'd agree with Mr. Bent. I am still very on the fence. I don't think I was particularly swayed. I'm literally torn right now.
You see, if I may, just to also speak to that issue, Mark Golding came into this debate fighting a cultural war, right? There's an unsaid issues about his ability to relate to people, because of his color, his wealth, etc., etc. His ability to assimilate culturally with the Jamaican, etc., etc. I think he's responded to that. I think he's covered that, issues with his duality and all those things, he's covered it. So I think he's really given himself a brilliant platform here this evening.
I think I have to venture a comment on that matter, Donika.
Just after that, I want to jump, so let's keep it
that's
tight.
Fine. Oh, well, just to be clear, Jamaicans, we're not bigoted or prejudiced by nature. We are indeed, out of many, one people. So nobody is taking issue with Mark Golding's ancestry, as it were, because none of us have any control over the people to whom we are born. The point that has been made is that Mark Golding did not choose Jamaica. When it came to light as to his dual nationality, his dual citizenship essentially, Mark Golding indicated that he would have to go into contemplation and think about whether he would relinquish his British passport and indeed his British citizenship. So that is someone who did not elect to do what the rest of us get up and do every day, which is to exhibit and bat for Jamaica day in, day out. This is a gentleman who, of course, did not elect to take out a Jamaican passport until he was 43 years of age. just on the cusp of making himself available for high office in terms of the last Portia Simpson Miller-led administration.
Take it away, Carla.
Our live studio audience is oozing to react to the debate. So, yes, you.
For me, I'd like to hear more of the issues. Mike, I have two congregations. None of them are PAYE. Most of them are self-employed. And another half, let me say, are unemployed. For them, their major concerns are breaking generational curses, access to education, access to transportation, access to housing, access to water, access to health care. And I am somewhat disappointed that those issues were not raised. It seems as if the debate did not capture the whole Jamaica, but a segment of. My congregants would now be sitting, asking, where do I stand in this? I'm unemployed, so I don't have that 3.5 million threshold. I don't have that threshold being only 15% for income tax. But where do I fit in with healthcare? Where do I fit in with social policies? And I would like to hear it from our leaders. Our next leader, another week from now, we'll either have a prime minister that will be coming back, or we'll have a new one. Where do we fit in that?
And a reaction from our nurse in studio.
So I'm happy to be a nurse and hold a PhD. So I am Dr. Nurse Right? I am happy to see a vibrant debate. There was a lot of acrimony. There was a lot of mudslinging, but I am happy to see that all leaders were charismatic. These people who were fighting for office were fighting for office, and that was interesting for me. However, we did not hear about under-resourced sectors. The health sector is still under-resourced, and we have not heard how they plan to address that. The education system is severely under-resourced, and what we find is that there's a disparity in what happens in the country and what happens in our suburban areas. We are not finding that there's equitable distribution of the resources. We are not hearing anything about subvention to education. I did not hear anything about the quality of life of security officers. And let us not speak to the particular issues about resources to police officers, and do not let me quote those particular issues, because those are for perhaps another debate. And we have not heard that from this particular debate. I'm happy, though, that each debater was able to speak to the issues and why they ought to be elected. And so, in some ways, I'm happy to see the type of debate I saw today.
Roger wanted to share.
I just want to remind us as well, because I hear the passion and it's important, and I know persons are sitting down in their quarters also maybe feeling that kind of disappointment. This kind of debate would never have lent itself to that kind of deep dive analysis. It couldn't possibly have. It was always going to be a bird's eye view, and several things would have been missed overall. The idea here is really to test the mettle of the men. That is really the whole idea of a prime ministerial debate. You can't talk policy, you can't talk deep issues. So therefore, we're going to be disappointed, many of us, because the things we wanted to hear, we won't be able to hear. At the end of the day, though, you have to ask the question, is the man who is promising strong? Is the man who is saying we have performance strong? Can we trust those things? I think that is really the big issue that is going to come out of this so far.
Understand we have more input from our live studio audience. Carla?
Ms. Gervon, your reaction?
Okay, so I would have to agree with Senator Morgan. Based on how the questions are structured, both debaters would have responded based upon that. However, in his closing argument, Prime Minister Andrew Holness would have touch point as it relates to the housing policies, which basically captures the interests of many Jamaicans. Thank you.
Two things. First, it was the question when Mark Golding said, he thought about it then decided to ask the people. To use this analogy, it's like when a man has multiple ladies and one of his girls is asking him, choose me. She's not the one he loves, so he decides to go to the group chat to find out which one should he choose. And that would have shown where Mr. Golding said that he thought about it and he asked you, the people. And secondly, I was expecting to hear more about the 3.5. The increase in the threshold means that we will lose a lot of revenues as government. What programs will be cut? Are you saying that the over 550,000 people that went to art, the future persons will not have the opportunity to go to art because programs like that will be cut and other social programs? How will that 3.5 be funded? What policies are you planning to cut if you go with that move?
And your reaction?
I think for 90 minutes, the country saw two different leaders. And we saw one where Mark Golden is presenting a different vision, and we saw Dr. Holness presenting a totally different vision. For me, the number one issue coming out of this debate is the Integrity Commission. And all the viral moments should come from the birth certificate moment and all the back and forth between who has integrity and who does not. And I really believe these debates are for the people who are excited to go to the polls, and which would be the most loyal supporters on both sides. And they are going to be talking about this issue, about the Integrity Commission. And for the first time, Mark Golden was always on a platform stage, litigating these issues. He got the first time to face Dr. Holness to really have that conversation. I thought it was a good debate. And I think Jamaicans should not be undecided after watching this debate.
Even if they are perhaps not likely to be talking about that aspect as much, but more so the bread and butter issues?
It's so interesting. This debate should have captured more of the bread and butter issues. You should have been, both men should have been talking about more storytelling in terms of the people who they are defending. But really the debate became a fight over who had integrity and who didn't. And I think people are going to get lost on the journalism rights issues and all the other byline moments. People are going to be talking about the back and forth between these two men and who has the integrity to lead the country the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, I do note that there were some other hands raised on the front of this row. So, lady and gentleman,
your reaction?
Well, as expected, the debate featured a lot of political jabs, and I must say that throughout the course of the debate, we would have seen a bit of jocularity, as with the economic and social issues debate. You'd have seen Mark Golding pulling out his birth certificate, for instance, to feature it. And I think in instances such as that, the Jamaican people probably would have had a laugh. But overall, the debate, in a sense, captured, I think, much of what some people were expecting. Maybe not everyone, as my fellow companion from Jade mentioned, that, you know, it wasn't intended to capture the needs of everyone, the matters and the issues delved into. But overall, it was a good debate. I must say that both party leaders were tasked with delivering a compelling and convincing case to the Jamaican people as to why they should be elected as the next leader. And I think that was done to an extent. In some fashion, you could say that the Jamaica Labour Party leader, Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Holness, would have delivered a case that would have, you know, appealed to the hearts of many Jamaicans from the disabled community, from those youth seeking assistance. And I mean, from Mark Golding, it was something of a similar nature. It was done to some extent. So I think it was a good debate, 50-50.
I see you're writing notes. What's your reaction to the debate?
So doing this as an adjudication, I'm from the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment, and if I were to sort of do this as I would a typical debate, you look at particular issues that are important. I can give 5. You have corruption, you have taxation, you have the constitution, you have trust, and then you have the economy. I think reasonably, starting off with corruption, we had a lot of evidence being thrown by the leader of the opposition. And I
might have to cut you there. So just hold those points, because we're up on a break and we have to take it. So do stay with us after these.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
The following is a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
The Jamaica Labour Party is doing more for your safety. Over the past 9 years, we've delivered the lowest murder rate in 30 years. We've strengthened our police force, and we've delivered landmark programs like the first government-run domestic violence shelters. The JLP is doing more for you, and we're not done yet. Proven results means peace of mind. Choose a safer Jamaica. Put your ex beside the bell.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
We want a peace for Jamaica. Yeah. Yo, what are you? Oh, man, none of that. Oh, no, brother, no. I'm not sure.
You see you ever play ref? No, piggy, I'm not playing.
Yeah, but I look a bad game. No, I said, Pearson, you come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, Bridging. No shake on, I can play a little bad, Bridging.
Really have to shake on?
Yeah, man, and no badness, Bridging. Just live good, man.
I make the violence done. It's a special edition coming out of the leadership debates that were just held at CPTC here in Kingston. But here at CVM TV, we have a live panel, a live studio audience, and a lot of reactions coming out from our audiences. And so we join now Mr. Matthew Douglas of Jade on his 5-point reaction to what has happened in that leadership debate.
Okay, it's, for me, going through the main issues of the debate, I'm not quite sure if these would apply equally to everyone, but this is just in my take on it. So firstly, looking at corruption. I think we had a lot of evidence thrown against Andrew Holness by Mark Golding, talking about the investigations, things that weren't released, general suspicions that are held by the population. However, I think Andrew Holness does a very good job responding in a way that is clear, that is adequate to say the investigation, 1, isn't ongoing, 2, they haven't found anything. And 3, what you really are left with is largely just speculation and something that can't really amount to a full claim of guilt. The next thing, looking at taxation. I think reasonably, we get decent explanations on both sides. However, the question is still left with the opposition leader specifically regarding what programs are going to be cut. A colleague of mine mentioned it here already, wherein there could be a bit more specificity regarding specifically where in the budget you're finding the room, because they mentioned growth, that's for one. I think this was reported quite well by the Prime Minister. And then they mentioned cutting other programs that are at their discretion. Like, what does that mean? We could have gotten more there. The next thing, the Constitution. I think this issue sort of was left at the referendum that the Prime Minister implied that he wished to have called, but was thwarted by the opposition leader. Beyond that, I don't think the debate really progressed much when talking about issues like the CCJ and so forth. And I think reasonably that was a good response by the Prime Minister. And I think you take it on this issue. Next, talking about trust. I think this one is largely balanced for me. I think reasonably you have a lot of reason to doubt and a lot of reason to trust both leaders. You have a history that is quite muddled with both Mark Golding and the Prime Minister regarding the financial crisis of the 1990s and what Mark Golding used to be. He was an investment banker. He was an advisor of a minister who didn't do the best with his responsibilities. And then you have, of course, the investigations of the Prime Minister and what that generally means. I think here both proved that they are somewhat committed, and I think the average voter can get that from the debate. I think reasonably then, I call this even. Lastly, the economy. Here we got some very specific policies, I think, regarding how they plan to develop skills, like what philosophy or policy philosophy they felt was necessary to employ to improve the economy. I think what could have been done here more on both sides was to be more comparative, as we call it in the debate. To say, here's what I stand for, but why does it necessarily outweigh what they've told us? Because we had a lot of things talking about the Youth Innovation Fund, the skills, like matching skills investment and so forth. But why does that necessarily outweigh what the JLP has told us on the part of Matt Golding, and then same for vice versa based on what the JLP would have said they would have done in their place? So I think it was a good debate for me, a lot of specificity. Things could have been done better, but I think the average Jamaican population who would have watched this debate would have certainly benefited from what has been said so far.
Right, Mr. Atkins, you wanted to join the chat.
Yeah, I agree with Matthew in relation to a lot of the issues being symmetric, in as much as we get a sort of baseline understanding of what both parties bring to the table. I think in relation to the comparative analysis, in as much as the weighing was important, that is a key issue that I've seen in a lot of the political debates thus far. Pretty uncomparative. There's no amount of engaging with the merit of what this might be versus what this isn't. I think a lot of the issues, though, that weren't symmetric are issues on crime, for example, are issues on the environment, for example, the $100-odd million bond that the JLP has set up in relation to the violation of various environmental laws for trade wind and the deal with NEPA. In terms of integrity as well, I think I would also give that to the JLP. I think Andrew did the best job in establishing that there is zero reason to consider me as a guilty or culpable person in relation to illicit enrichment, given the independent reports, given so on and so forth. In terms of taxation now, I think Matthew touched on an important idea. I'm not sure the extent to which Mark Golding, the PNP overall, defends well, first of all, I must give props. It was the clearest articulation of where, like, a lot of the money would come from. And I think, similarly, the Prime Minister started to, nitpick at the extent to which a lot of what Mark Golding has said is true. Now, in my mind, I'm left with, then what is true, right?
Which takes me to a point I want to make, but I'll allow you to complete.
Yeah, in terms of what is true. Now, I think that is the biggest question for me in the debate and a lot of the issues. One party says something, the next party says something, and it's accusations. I think then, big thing to consider going forward with the political debates is fact-checking.
So that's precisely my point, Nico and viewers. Just to be very clear, I have canvassed social media because prior to tonight, you'll appreciate that there were two debates that preceded this one. Yes. And that's one of the deficits I have observed myself. You know that there are other formats around the world, certainly in some of the North American debates, certainly in the United States, there is this almost live and instant fact-checking to hold the debaters to account. And what it would do is essentially have the listeners and the viewers getting a clear sense as to who is being, faithful to the truth and faithful to the facts. So, for example, when Mr. Golding asserted that the Prime Minister's investigation, the investigation is ongoing, that is not true. The Integrity Commission, in its annual report, which it submitted to Parliament just a few weeks ago, indicated that investigation is at an end.
Right. So we have some reactions to the debate, and we've had some questions persons responded to. Question one, this is how most of you responded. So the pink is the color for the Jamaica Labour Party, and the blue for the People's National Party, Marlon say. So that question is in relation to the IC and the political ombudsman. All right. So you see there, that looks like a 50-50 response in terms of how those answers went. Question two had to do with the 3.5 taxation plan, 3.5 million taxation plan. More people favored, it would appear here, the Jamaica Labour Party's options over the People's National Party's options. So some of the early results coming in from our own polls that were conducted online, which we encourage you to join in and respond to. So how do we respond to these? Any reactions from your audience, Carla?
Any reactions by raise of hands by the poll?
Regarding the poll, regarding the 3.5, as I would have stated earlier, it's obvious a lot of persons agree with the JLP plan to reduce income tax to 15% than to vote for the increase in threshold for 3.5, because raising this threshold means that a lot of programs that we benefit from, especially our pensioners, they will lose benefit. And also, I know a lot of persons going to school and they are on path. If you raise the threshold, programs like those will lose money. And we want a government that is active to providing for our people while we're paying our taxes. We don't want to just not pay anything and then just say, okay, we're willing to take bad roads, we're willing to take bad hospitals, and our police officers, we're willing to not have the proper cameras. So we are very obvious that we support the 15% decrease.
So I want to tell the audience and our panelists as well that we have our third question coming in ahead of further reactions. And this question had to do in relation to convincing, well, voter turnout and convincing people, you know, regarding not corrupt or whether they think somebody is corrupt, but something to that effect. So here we go. We're seeing here where that question seemingly favored the JLP again. Right. So as we look at question 4, this one is about taxes and payment, debt payment. All right. So this one we're seeing more people felt that the Jamaica Labour Party, albeit minimally.
Because they've seen it these past few years, 8 years, no new taxes. A government you can trust, performance as opposed to mere promises.
Right, we take question 5, fixed election dates. Let's see what our audiences had to say online. Wow, so in relation to that, it is so close, razor thin close. JLP, again, seemingly getting an edge there. Tiny close. That looks like a 49-50.
People say that the PNP frustrated the profound constitutional reform efforts. They had representatives to the commission, but when the work was done and a report drafted and presented for signature, Mark Golding directed his representatives, his nominee to the commission, not to sign.
Well, and to be clear, I think he was also responsive to that issue when he spoke about the fact that he didn't feel that enough representation and consultation was actually
I touched on an excellent point. It's such a pity the Prime Minister didn't mention it on his feet. But just to be clear, in either 2022 or 2023, Mark Golding made the point in his contribution to the budget debate at the time that the country should proceed with the issues on which we are agreed. So in other words, those low-hanging fruits, let us proceed with those and get rid of the king. That's what Mark Golding said in the Parliament. The tape is there. He's
yes,
a flip-flopper in
but I
chief.
have question 8, Marlon.
Sure, very
Question 8. Viewers responded in relation to environmental sanctions. That looks like it's right down the middle.
I think
Right. Mr. Atkins, I saw you responding.
Yeah.
Environmental sanctions. You had a lot to say about this during the break.
It was one of those issues that I care about deeply, particularly amongst the younger generations. I think Gen Z, we care about the environment. I think the Labour Party won. And the reason why they won is because of the tough sanctions that they've levied against, as I previously mentioned, the trade winds, the bonds, for example. The $115 million bond had to be paid. And
it's an accountability measure.
And it's an accountability measure. I think that created a sort of a big deterrence effect to a lot of the...
I'm not sure I agree with that, though, because there's also
really quickly, Roger, as we tackle
ongoing concern about the teeth of NEPA that is yet to be defined and determined, and I think a whole lot of issues to do with how we treat our seas, or rivers, or shores are relating to that issue as well.
I agree, Roger. I agree, and I think a lot more needs to be done in relation to equipping bodies like NEPA, like JET, with stronger or much more constitutionally guaranteed powers.
Well, JET is an NGO.
I have to wrap you up.
NGO.
I'm going to give a final 15 seconds. Carla, you take it away.
By a show of hands, the JLP won the debate. Show the hands if JLP won. And the PNP won the debate. Raise your hand if PNP won the debate. There you have it, Nico.
Like an athlete on the bubble.
Well, you know what? At least you were all well behaved. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a great audience here at CVM TV. I wish I could come back to you, but that's all the time we have, and we have to get home. Thank you so much, Jamaica, for tuning in and trusting CVM TV to take you here with the analysis. I'm Nika Lewis, and from all our panelists here and our studio audience, and
is a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
It is going to take divine intervention.
Faith without works is dead. Divine intervention without action won't make me feel safer. Being tough on crime will. This year, murders are down another 43%. That's over 300 fewer lives lost than this time last year. That wasn't an accident, it was action. I need warriors against crime, not guardians of it. Ending gang violence, illegal guns off the street, more judges and a paperless court system, and long-term systematic change. That's real justice. That's the safer Jamaica I want to live in. I don't want to turn back now.
Choose results you can count on. Put your X beside the bell.
The proceeding was a paid announcement by the Jamaica Labour Party.
Every generation brings new hopes and ambitions. For 55 years, Sagicor has been helping Jamaicans to realize their dreams. As we celebrate our past, we look forward to continuing that legacy of trust, providing support and financial solutions for the next generation to succeed. Sagicor, building trust, one generation at a time.
Following is a paid announcement